Hey gang, Rodin here. Welcome on back to the Cade and to another episode of our one-day playthroughs, where we show you a game that in an era where games can take hundreds of hours to complete, and I'm not saying that's a bad thing, it's just the way the medium has evolved, we're going to go back and take a look at games that you can beat in a day or less. And for this one, we're going to go back to 1990 and we're going to play one of the original games for the SNK Neo Geo. Now, when I say the original games, this is one of, if not the first game that was created by SNK for both the cabinet that was the arcade cabinet for the SNK Neo Geo and the console, which was known as the Neo Geo AES. We're going to play NAM-1975. And what we're going to do over the course of the next half hour or so is we're going to see how far we can get into this game. Now, one thing that I want to point out is that this is, of all the games that are available on the console, this is the only one that we know of that does not have the original Neo Geo loading screen on it. And what this is it's a run-and-gun shooter. And as you'll see, it's set up in a pretty straightforward way. It's similar to games like Cabal and Dynamite Duke, which were games of the previous generation, about the 80s and 90s.
Dr. R. Muckley, an ex-US Army scientist.
And this game came out originally in the arcades in April of 1990, and then was released on the Neo Geo worldwide in July of 1991. Whoops, as I had a slight pause there. And it has a lot of throwbacks on a lot of things that were derided from classic Vietnam movies of the era, going all the way back to Apocalypse Now in the late 1970s and all the way through Full Metal Jacket, and even shades of like First Blood and Rambo in the early to mid 1980s. And part of the reason for that is because when I was a kid, it was all about trying to come up with an idea to both understand and relitigate the Vietnam War for obvious reasons. And I'm not going to go into all the general reasons about it. If you know, you know. But how this game works is that, as you see, I've got my soldier on this side of the river, and what I'm trying to do is avoid getting shot by everybody on the other side of the river, and I'm not doing a great job of it. And what you've got to do is you've got to aim this reticle at the people you want to take out. Now, you have unlimited ammunition for your machine gun, but you only have so many grenades that you can throw, and your grenades do additional damage. Now, like most arcade games of the time, you take one hit and you're dead, whereas if your opponents can take multiple hits and they keep coming. And at the end of every level, there is a boss, and there are 6 levels in this game. So it is a game that, again, you can beat it in a day, but it's not going to make it easy for you. And this is similar to a game that I played back in the arcades in the early to mid-80s called Operation Wolf. Except in that game, it was much more of an arcade-style first-person shooter, because everybody's moving along and you're the one who's having to pick them off with your machine gun. So in that respect, it's similar to games like Terminator 2 and Aliens and stuff that you saw in arcades in the last 10 to 15 years. Now, one of the things I like about playing this on an emulator, and I'm playing this on the Win KWAX emulator, and we've got a boss battle coming up here. And this guy down front looks very much like a Private Pile clone from Full Metal Jacket. So now what we got to do is we got to take these guys out, and one of the things I can do to help my cause is to knock down this Buddha statue that is here. But while I'm at it, I can just open fire on these guys Oh, that was good. I knew there was no way I was going to get out of that. Ooh, and I got torched. So I don't know what that bonus item will get me. Unfortunately, I don't have like a quick roll that I would in, say, like... If I had the quick roll that I had available to me in, like, Dark Souls, this game would be a lot easier. But it is a case of... Get your shots off and get out of the way as best you can. And we finally took him out with a bunch of grenades.
This is Firebird. Headquarters. Over. We've been sighted. We'll abandon boat and go through Donang City. Over.
So we made it through the first of the 6 levels.
Our plan.
And as we go through this, the bosses will get that much bigger and crazier. Oof. Well, that didn't take long. We managed to save a civilian, it looks like. Now, like most games of this type, it is very much about pattern recognition and timing, and in a lot of ways, patience. You don't have a timer like you do in conventional games. And that was something that was very common, actually, in a lot of Neo Geo games, is that you had a timer that you were having to combat. And you just kind of slide out of the way of the bullets as they're coming down. The difficulty is in trying to make sure that you're out of the way of the bullets while also being able to aim at whatever target you're trying to hit. That does make it very, very difficult. Now, you're going to chew up quarters a lot in this game. And it is very easy to get frustrated in it. But you could also make the argument that this was a logical predecessor to games like Metal Slug that also appeared on this console. Oh, now we got a hind we gotta take it. Ouch. Those missiles come in fast. Oof. Now we got torched. This is a game that I would also imagine you can speed run. But if there's anybody who has ever tried to do like a one-hit or beat this game by taking no damage at all, I'd be damn impressed. Oof. Oh, I rolled right into that. This hind can take a whole heap and heck of a lot of damage. But we got it. Now, when Electronic Gaming Monthly did their list of the 200 greatest games of all time back in 2006, NAM-1975 ranked 194th. And its overall ranking on game rankings is still 70%. So it's a game that is held in fairly high regard. Is it a game that you could get away with making nowadays? Possibly, but... Ooh! We're getting gassed. Gotta stay away from those balloons. Alright, we took out the truck.
Enemy planes coming in for attack.
And now we're up in a C-130 Hercules, and we've got to fend off MiGs. Oof. Well, I think as far as I'd hoped. But as you can see, it is very much chaos in this whole game. I mean, you're standing on the top of a C-130 Hercules. Trying to take out stuff in front of you. You gotta aim, you gotta be able to shoot, and you gotta be able to defend yourself. And you get anywhere near a bullet, and that's it. But I think we're going down. Nope. Something really big is coming up out of the clouds. This is a Russian super bomber, I can already tell. And I'm putting more holes in it than a good old piece of Swiss cheese. Oof. Alright, see if I can get these guys out of here. Well, I did better in that section. But I'm about to get my clock cleaned in here. Oh, thought I had it. Alright, looks like we're going back down the side of the plane again. Leave more bullet holes in the fuselage. Figured I had shot the... There we go. Now I'm shooting the engines. Whoa, look out. It's so hard to be able to gauge which way all this stuff is going to go. Ah! And just when you think you're safe and you're out of the way, you get torched.
We landed safely. Now we will attack the airport.
So let's see, I think that was stage 3.
We must continue the mission.
And we're about 20 minutes. Now, yes, you could argue that this game gets fairly repetitive, that there is not much else going for it other than staying out of the way of bad guys and gunning down enemy soldiers. But that was the whole idea behind games that had primary storylines surrounding the Vietnam War. That was what all of the movies were about. That was everything from Rambo to Missing in Action to, I mean, even really crazy ones like American Ninja and stuff like that. There was such a fervor around trying to retell the story of the Vietnam War, where Americans did not lose it. And it was because we lost it that there was so much animosity, not just towards the people who fought it, but also against the very idea of how it was handled, the people in charge of it, everything. And when I was a kid growing up in the 1980s, there was still this idea that it was not different than how it had been in World War II when my grandparents fought the Nazis and the Japanese. But whereas my grandparents, because both my grandfathers served in the military in World War II, my one grandfather was a CB, the other one was, I think, a cook on a naval ship. I never did find out which one. But they weren't combat soldiers. But be that as it may, oof, as I got blown up. You know, there's been this long romantic notions surrounding the idea of the American military soldier as something as close to a legitimate superhero as you're going to find. And I'm not saying that in any way to besmirch or denigrate anybody who has volunteered to serve. I understand exactly what that entails. What irks me more than anything is how they are treated when they get home. There's a lot of promises that are made to people who serve in the military, and a lot of promises were made to people who went to fight in Vietnam. And as a country, as a collective nation, we did not help those guys in any real way, shape, or form. And the documentation is there. There's ample history and information about the mistreatment of soldiers in Vietnam. And I've met and I've interviewed a lot of them when I was still working over the years as a journalist. And I saw it repeated in the Gulf Wars. I saw it repeated in the war in Afghanistan. I mean, the track record is not good. But at the same time, I don't want to make this a lecture about anything. It is just simply a matter of... oof. You know, in making a game like this, it became something where kids my age were given a very romanticized and saccharine view of what the war was like.
By the enemy. The field captain gave us new information and orders. Dr. Muckley's daughter, Nancy, was taken with Dr. Muckley. We went to the enemy's arms factory.
So now we are at level 5, which means we have 2 more to go, including this one. Ah, I was trying to get that. It's nice getting special weapons, but they don't seem to last very long. Especially because I don't last very long when I get into this sort of a melee. Alright, take these flamers out. Ah, I knew that was going to happen. Whoa, look out. Watch out for the balls. Ah! I got the specialty weapon, then I couldn't use it. So I'm too busy trying to get out of the way of everything. That is one of the more frustrating aspects of this game. And I've already burned through all the coins I had dropped in here to keep going. Alright, take these guys down. Can I get her down?
Oh, she is definitely Nancy Buckley.
Ah. So this is the doctor's daughter.
Your real enemy is...
Ooh, except she got shot. Alright, let's see if we can get these guys. Oh, and I go right into the gas cloud. Alright, I took one of them out. Took the other one out. Oh, and he got me, and I got him too. So did we manage to rescue her?
Our plan.
I don't know. Oh, wait, I know. Your communications have been intercepted because...
Oh, somebody took him out.
Enemy's commander was hit by a sniper, but we still got some info. The laser weapon Dr. Muckley is building is near completion at the enemy camp. We went to the enemy camp, even though we knew it would be dangerous.
Well, of course it would. Wouldn't be a NAM movie if we didn't go all the way to the enemy hideout. So now we're at the final level, and we're about 30 minutes in, which, again, stands to my point of why we picked this for a one-day playthrough. Okay, these little weapons are nice to have. But I knew I wasn't going to have many of them. Oh, this is just chaos now. Uh-oh, the my grenades. This isn't good. And the bombs are dropping. Look out. Oh, they got an Osprey in this. They didn't come up with Ospreys until the 90s. Then, because your machine gun isn't that super powerful, being able to take out a lot of enemies isn't really doable. Now, am I actually going to be able to use the specialty weapon here? That would be really nice. But I think we are at the boss.
Good luck. No one can stop me.
I guess that's Dr. Muckley, I presume. The dude is just... He's dispersing the bombs. Holy cow. Get out of the damn chair.
Too late. You are not the enemy for my new weapon.
Alright, see if I can take them down here. Okay, that's one down. Alright, come on, get over here. Alright, took her down. And I'm assuming that this is the last boss. So it's raining bombs and laser blasts. Oh, because we didn't beat him, the world gets blown up. And that's the end of the game. So we went all that way and didn't end up beating it. But that, everybody, is NAM-1975 from 1990 for the SNK Neo Geo. Now we go to our usual questions. Is it a good game? I would say it is. And for its time, it was actually a fairly novel game in its design. I wouldn't say in its content, but very much in its design. That it was a run-and-gun shooter that was not like a conventional American run-and-gun shooter, like Operation Wolf and a lot of other military-style games at the time, like Green Beret and Commando and Ikari Warriors and Rambo and stuff like that. This went in a totally different direction, and that's kind of cool. But is it a game that you could make today? I would say you could try to, but it would be really, really hard. One, because that even though you've got games like Battlefield and Call of Duty and stuff like that, if you're going to try and dive into that sort of market, you're going to have to come up with something really, really big and really, really impressive and get a lot of people's attention. Whereas, let me pause this really quick. Whereas with trying to do a game like this, that would be a 2D side-scroller, might actually be more appealing. The other thing is that if you want to try and do a game like this now, you would have to be much more cognizant of the subject matter in which you are dealing with. And I don't say that as a negative thing either. I say that because now that we are in 2024 and we've had 50 years to reevaluate our position, not just on Vietnam, but also everything surrounding that war. If you had any sort of empathy and social consciousness, you would approach it from a different perspective. Both for the character you're portraying as an American soldier and also the people on the other side. Does that mean that there'd be people who would necessarily want to go there and create that sort of content for people to play in a video game format? I can't say there would be. Not really. I don't see a lot of companies jumping out of the woodworks to take on that sort of project. I'd be interested to see if they did. And I think you could do, if an independent company or an independent game designer wanted to come up with something in a similar style to this, that had a deeper story that wasn't as derivative from popular Western variations and rehashings of Vietnam. Again, like Apocalypse Now and Platoon and Rambo and all that stuff. I think that would be much more effective. But again, this is a game that you can play and beat in about... I think if we'd gotten all the way through to the end and gotten through it, we would have beat it in about 40 minutes. it is one that is going to try your patience. As you saw, I wasn't necessarily mucking about, but trying to navigate your way through the very, very accurate term of a bullet hell game to get through each level can be frustrating. Your ability to get special weapons is really, really limited. Your machine gun, your primary weapon, doesn't do much damage. You're relying on grenades, and you burn through them really quickly. I think if the controls were a little sharper, and if the overall pattern of attack that you were having to navigate your way through was just even 5 or 10% less than what it is, I think it would be overall a better game. Because you would still keep the challenge, but it wouldn't be so overwhelming that you'd be burning through lives every 5 to 10 seconds. You'd have a little bit more breathing room to be able to navigate your way through each level. So, but for what it is and for what it was at the time, I freely admit that of all the games that I play on my Neo Geo emulator, this is one I go back to more often than not. Because I like the challenge of it. I like the graphical presentation of it. The story, it's not the greatest, but I also, again, grew up in the era where this sort of stuff was the norm. So it doesn't faze me as much, I suppose, as if younger generations would play. That's not to say that they're thinner skinned, but I think, obviously, perspectives and generational perspectives are much different. So, but that is our one-day playthrough for this week. If you've been enjoying the content on the channel, as always, best way you can show it, hit the like button, subscribe if you are new, and ring the bell to be notified of new episodes. Hope you guys enjoyed Sports Saturday and Suckerpunch Sunday this past weekend, where we played Rugby 2004 and Dynasty Warriors 2. Both of those were interesting challenges in their own way. And it's stuff that it's one of the things I like about having these different sorts of series that we do, is that it allows me to branch out in different areas and put together games that, again, you may not be familiar with, and two, allows me to explore stuff that even I, as a gamer of 40 years, have not really had much experience with. I never played rugby. I didn't, sure as heck, never played a rugby game, and it definitely showed in how that episode of Sports Saturday went. It did have some people ask me, well, why didn't you just record one where you did better? I think it's more authentic if I show a game that I am not good at. I'm not good at every game. This right here was a clear-cut example of that. I got smoked throughout the majority of this playthrough, and I could go back and try and get good and make it all clean and polished, but you guys will see through that, and I'm not going to belittle you, and I'm not going to underestimate your intelligence that you won't know a polished product when you see it. So I'd rather show you it warts and all and show you that I am not the greatest video game player in every field than it is I have my strengths and I like to go with them, but that's just me. What do I know? Be sure to follow us on social media through Instagram and Threads at Ronan's Retrocade to help spread the word about us so we can continue to reach our subscriber goals and make this community bigger and better. And as always, if there is a game you would like to see us feature from the Nintendo Entertainment System, the Super Nintendo, Sega Master System, Sega Genesis or Mega Drive, SNK, Neo Geo, Nintendo 64, Sega Saturn, Sega Dreamcast, PlayStation 1, or PlayStation 2, leave it in the comments below or drop me a line on social media. It can be any game from those consoles that you want, guys. My name is Ronan. It's been great to spend this one-day playthrough with you. Be safe, be well, happy gaming. We'll talk to you on Wednesday for another episode of WTF Wednesday. Bye.